Three key factors in figuring out your audience are understanding the personas, the value proposition, and the user journeys of the listeners or viewers. To cut a long story short, a persona basically represents a core audience or user group with shared characteristics. The value proposition represents the benefit to that persona, and the user journey represents the wider steps towards a brand or product engagement within which the media content sits for that persona. I'll probably cover user journeys at a later date, but let's look at the first two. The personas for Incubate, and by Incubate I mean both the video series and the product, are probably something like this. Firstly, we have tech startup enthusiasts who basically enjoy hearing about the startup journey. Next, we've got project managers at an agency. Third, we have product managers or founders at startups. And lastly, we've got product managers at established businesses. Now, this list is definitely a bit odd. Some of these personas are probably only interested in Incubate the series and not the product. And some are going to be interested in Incubate the product, but not the series. Now, keep in mind, our goal should be to make a series that at least in part appeals to the future users of the product. Otherwise, we're building an audience that cannot become customers. So, what might the value proposition look like for these personas? Well, that's a bit complicated because Incubate the series and Incubate the product represent different value propositions. And as I was thinking about this, I realised, there's an underlying value proposition delivered by each of these personas to us as the makers of the product, a reverse value proposition. And it was something that I feared might have been driving some of the decisions I've been making to date. So I took a stab at writing this out. For the tech startup enthusiast, the series value proposition is pretty much entertainment. And for us, they're easy to just make a documentary style series for because you don't have to do any research and they're probably interested in the journey. But unfortunately, there probably isn't any product value for them. They aren't the target market. For a project manager in an agency, like our agency, the value proposition to us is pretty clear. They're really easy for us to understand because it's us. And we know that the USPs of our product, the history and the approvals parts, they're valuable too because it's valuable to us. But there isn't necessarily any clear value in the series for them. Furthermore, I'm not even sure if these are in our target market. Our USP appeals to a persona that isn't in our target market. Yep, alarm bells for me too. Moving on, for product managers or founders at startups, I'm pretty sure that when we talk about product management or marketing techniques in the series, it's at some level going to be useful and interesting for them. They'll typically be generalists rather than specialists, and for us it's relatively easy to access them to find out more because we're in a building full of 100 other tech startups, so reaching out to them is theoretically simple. But something tells me I'm not sure they're actually our future customers either. I want them to be, but do they really need to pay for a tool to help them with something that could be done with a free tool like a spreadsheet in the early days of a startup? I'm not so sure. So finally, that brings us to product managers at established businesses. We really, really need them to be interested because this is who I see as our future customers. And when we talk about product management techniques in the series, this should definitely be of interest to them because that's their specialism. But let's face it, a lot of this series isn't about learning product management techniques. In fact, most of it hasn't been to date. And while I definitely see Incubate the product being a part of how they do their job, I'm starting to be a bit worried looking at this that our key features of history and approval are more useful to agency project managers like us than product managers like them. I definitely need to find out some more about this. But what do we have so far? It's clear that not all of our content in this series will appeal to all of these personas. They've got different reasons for listening. But we do need to find a way to chunk it up. So for now, that's going to be how we do it. I'll record in a single sweep and then I'll cut it into sections covering startup interest, product management and marketing and release them as separate videos. If I think a section might appeal to several personas, then I'll mark it as such. And I'm aware that in previous videos I've covered technical details pretty heavily, even though they're not part of our personas. So in the future, if I do that again, I'll mark it as technical, so you can feel free to ignore it. The final two things that I'm going to try to do is write out a script and then record from that. I've done it this time, and you've probably noticed that I'm a lot more to the point with less filler noises and more dramatic pauses. Scripts, they're good like that. Finally, I'm going to experiment with adding subtitles to the videos using rev.com. I really want to optimize these videos for consumption on social media, and this is probably the second biggest change after length that would impact this. Plus, it's $1 a minute, so it's going to encourage me to get to the point quickly. So that's what's changing. If you like what you see, please do leave us a comment. And once again, if you like this video, please subscribe to the Incubate YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Matt Farrugia, MattFarrugia, and you can follow Incubate at GetIncubate or on the web at getincubate.com. Thanks for listening.